Do you think salads are boring? Well, it's time to change your mind. This spring salad is gonna be where it's at, and it's gonna make you love salads again. I am all about salads because they can be better than just greens on a plate. And that's what this spring salad is all about. It's great for an Easter celebration or any time. I eat this for a meal a lot of times. And what it's gonna have is delicious butter lettuce. Look at that beautiful tender lettuce. It's gonna have sprouts on it because I love sprouts. A really simple, homey, I'm gonna call it Midwestern dressing because it's what I grew up with both my grandmas, my mom making a lot. And then of course, the best of spring. It's gonna have asparagus. We're gonna blanch the asparagus so it retains its color and its texture, but slightly more tender. And then peas. Now, don't worry, I don't expect you to go have peas in your garden. These are frozen peas. I'm gonna let them thaw, sit out. Peas are great just to throw on a salad from the freezer. Let them thaw, perfect. To start, we're going to blanch our asparagus. Blanch means we're gonna put it in hot water, let it cook for a short time, then shock it in ice cold water that I have ready to go, and then it stops the cooking and keeps it that crisp, tender stage. So the important part with asparagus, you're gonna hear some people say, you need to just break it, and where it breaks, I also, you know what I do? I like to check. Where does it not get tender anymore? Where is it tenuous? And that's where you wanna cut it, because I don't like to waste more than I have to. But we're gonna cut off those ends that are tenuous, especially this time of year. I don't have it in my garden yet. I will in about a month, but when you get it from a grocery store, these ends are more dry because they've been shipped. So they're never gonna be as tender as the top part. So now we're just gonna cut it in somewhat bite-sized pieces. You don't have to be perfect here. If you want, go on a diagonal a little bit, give it a little bit of something extra. That's kind of the fun part. But we're gonna cut it, and then what we're gonna do is go over to our water that's boiling, and I like to salt the water. Not everyone salts their water that they blanch in. I think it helps retain the green color, and it does help season. So just like I would for pasta, I'm gonna generously make sure it is well salted, and we're gonna add in all of our asparagus. So this is only gonna cook for about 1 to 2 minutes. I just want that crisp tender. Then I have my ice ready to go here. I'm gonna add some water to it and just plunge that all right in. I pulled the asparagus out, had it in some ice water, just a few cubes left. And once it's well chilled, you can just use your spider, whatever you have, to take it out and put it on. I like to make sure it's well dried. Anytime you do a salad, same with the greens, you wanna have them washed, obviously, but then you want them to be very well dried because dressing, all the goodness does not stick to water. Oil, all those things, doesn't go well with water. So we wanna make sure that we get all this out and get it dried well. So when we put it on our salad, and you can taste it, because it's delicious like this, but we're just gonna let it dry. And we wanna make sure that it really gets dry. So sometimes I even roll it up in it, kind of just bang it around a little bit lightly on the counter. Make sure you get that water off of it, and then just let it air dry for a while. This is the best way to me to add asparagus like this to a salad because it retains the beautiful green color, the great flavor, and it's like just that beautiful, crisp, tender texture, which I love. So the dressing is really simple. Honestly, anytime we had homegrown lettuce in the garden, my grandma, my mom, they would make this all the time because it's so simple and it's stuff you have in your kitchen. So to start, has something unique. We're just gonna use mayonnaise. Now, I always use homemade mayonnaise. You use whatever mayonnaise you like, or salad dressing. We're not here to start a war between, you know, the traditional and Miracle Whip. Whatever you like, you can use. Now, to that, we are gonna up the flavor a little bit. So we're gonna add a little bit of mustard. Dijon is your friend, and it really adds so much flavor without any work. So I always keep a jar of this. Then we're gonna add some honey, and that's mostly, honey is a whole bunch of things. It balances out the flavors here. It adds some sweetness, which with all of the kind of more acidic flavors we're adding with the mustard, the mayonnaise, you kind of want that sweetness in there to balance it out. We're gonna add a little bit of champagne vinegar. That again, we're counteracting some of those flavors and just adding a little bit more of that acidity. And then we're gonna add, of course, salt and pepper, super important. You wanna have it well seasoned, and I think this pepper, fresh pepper with this, there's just nothing like that. It adds that great hit, and I like a lot of it in there. So we're gonna do that, we're gonna stir it. We're gonna make sure and just whisk it. So the high ratio of the mayonnaise in here makes it a beautiful dressing right away. You don't really have to worry about the emulsification that you would with just a vinaigrette. This is obviously, you can see, it's a completely different and kind of more of a viscous texture and consistency right away. So as always, anytime you make a dressing, what do you need to do? You need to taste it. Now, I always just usually use a spoon. Use whatever you like. This was my spoon I did the mustard with, so I wanna make sure to get the extra mustard off, but, okay, yum. Why we taste it though? I wanna make sure there's enough seasoning with the salt to balance out the honey and nothing's kind of competing with each other. That's really good. I love that dressing. Look how simple this is, and you're gonna have this stuff on hand. I think that's the best part. You want stuff that you're gonna have on hand that you're just gonna keep around. So next what comes is putting the salad together, and it starts with the greens. You can use whatever greens you like. I love a good buttercrunch lettuce. I love the ability it has to, one, just have that crisp, fresh flavor. It's always beautiful. So this one I took ahead and I just cut it up into like maybe roughly into quarters because I like some of those big pieces. I think a lettuce, half of the kind of what you want to do is make sure it presents well. Because sometimes salads can get what? They get drab. They get kind of gross. They kind of sit there and get wilty. So you want to do it at the end. When you have a head like this, usually you find these ones where they're still fresh. You can usually just go in with your fingers and take out that center core. There it is. And then I like to, like I just showed, just cut it kind of into quarters. So I roughly cut it, nothing extra, just like look at that. And when you do that, you have this ability to kind of nicely lay them out and have some pieces of the inside because that inside is even more tender, even more sweet. And you have to obviously adjust this depending on what you can find. If you have a different lettuce that you can find more easily, use it. Use whatever lettuce you love. That's the important part. These were really big heads, so I'm gonna use about 1.5. I love then to have lots of microgreens. I think these are broccoli microgreens, whatever microgreen you can find. For one, I think they just add this texture to it. Anytime I do a salad, especially if it's a special occasion, say Easter, I want it to feel just extra good. Maybe you don't go to this much work if it's in the evening when you're doing this at home, but when you're having people over, to add things like the microgreens, which honestly, they're like a superfood. They have tons of nutrients packed in them. They're all packed into a small, kind of like a condensed form since it's just a microgreen as opposed to a large plant. You get so much nutrients from it, and I think that's special. So at this point, it's really assembly, and it's putting all those things together. I definitely wanna have some onion, and I like to use red onion here because it's gonna be a little bit lighter flavor, it's gonna be a little bit sweeter, and it's one of those that we don't mind to have raw when it comes to a salad. Now, if you have a different onion maybe you like, do that, but I just like thin slices of the red onion, and I think it works really well. It's not gonna be as astringent when you get it, and it's not gonna feel as odd raw as certain onions would. You know, you wouldn't want just a Vidalia onion necessarily raw. Some people would, but I like to have more of this red onion. I think it just, the color right away, look what it does. It pops, it's beautiful. That's the important part. Now, you can dress it however you like. I like to more just drizzle on some of the dressing at different stages. So we have the greens here, and I just wanna drizzle on some, not make it too hard. And as you're drizzling, you can kind of just make sure you get it all around. And then I wanna really start putting on some of my favorite aspects here. So we have the asparagus, and place it however you think it looks good. But remember, this is that beautiful, fresh, tender, crisp, tender asparagus. We went to all that work of blanching, which is no work at all. You're gonna see why we blanch it. It really does give you that ability then, look at this, to just have a beautiful, fresh salad. The peas, seriously, once they're just slowly thawing, they retain their sweetness. Okay, so frozen peas you're buying in the grocery store, guess what they are? They're usually individually quick frozen. That means they're blanched pretty much. So they have that same process done to them, so they're just ready to go. So I'm gonna sprinkle those on, of course. I always need something crunchy, so I need a sunflower seed. I think it has that great flavor to go with this, adds a little nuttiness, a little bit of that toasted quality. I want toasted, roasted ones with some salt on them. I need to finish with some cheese. Now, feta is always good. I actually, with this one, love a goat cheese. I think as opposed to feta that can have a little bit more of a brininess, goat cheese has more of a creaminess and can also have a little bit more earthiness. Now, I like to use a marinated one. Any goat cheese you find is gonna be great, but I just like to crumble some of those marinated pieces, look at that, over the top. That is, well, one, that's just my favorite cheese, but two, is just delicious and it looks beautiful. See how the cheese, all these different layers we did, they complement each other. They bring out all the other layers. They look beautiful. You can, at the end if you need to, you have the dressing, you know, dress it up. Put some of the more dressing on top. Let it drizzle down in between all those layers. You can also dress the greens before if you really wanna make sure to get it all individually in there. And then guess what? It's the best part. This is, honestly, I think the reason I love this, because this is pretty much what I would eat on a weekly basis every night if I could, because it's just so good. I love it. The dressing is better than you think. It has a richness to it, but also it's really bright and almost like a vinaigrette with the vinegar we put in, with the mustard we put in. It really balances that out. That goat cheese, if you can find just a good creamy goat cheese, one that's even maybe marinated, it will add so much flavor, and the creaminess offsets all those other flavors. I love the peas. I love the asparagus, perfectly cooked. This is a great spring salad. It's great for a special occasion if you're gonna have one. It's also just great to eat if you just wanna have one on a weeknight basis because it's so good. So what do I hope you do with this? I hope you make a salad like this, because if I can do it, anybody can do this. Check my website, wiseguy.com, not only for this recipe, but for all my recipes. And as always, when you share these videos around, it helps me so much, but it helps everyone else see this is so doable, and it's fun and easy and more nutritious to cook at home. So try it out. Can't wait to see what you think.